Oh, Belinda, hello.
Hello, lovely to see you and hear you. How are you
Sorry,
doing?
Belinda.
We're
Yeah,
all
well,
right,
no,
mate.
we're fine. Because we've got this producer that doesn't listen, we didn't have any idea you were there. So sorry to keep you waiting.
Not at all. I've been enjoying the banter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
We're known for our banter. Great
are
banter.
we?
Yeah.
What does that mean? That sounds
You
horrible.
got top banter, gents. Top banter.
Banter. Oh, right. No, he's now moaning. He's saying, "Oh, only 5 minutes ago." Can you stop him listening, Ash,
Yeah,
please?
shouldn't listen.
Tell him to go and sit down, have a drink, or whatever he normally does. Now, Belinda, I'm so glad. Belinda, of course, who was a Brexit Party MEP, caused quite a lot of disruption in Bristol at the European Empire. Now, today is a fascinating day because...
Bristol.
Sorry?
Brussels.
Did I say Bristol?
Well, Bristol. She probably did as
I mean,
well.
I can go to Bristol if you like and cause a lot of trouble. I'm very happy. If
They
you
get
want
enough
to.
trouble, don't they, down Bristol with all their
No.
statues
Yeah,
and stuff.
statues, yeah.
I don't even know why I was thinking of Bristol.
Well, it's like Brussels, isn't it? It sounds a bit like Brussels. Bristol's.
I was going to say something then about Lizzie, but I'm not going to. Okay, so according to the EU, Michel Barnier, who's in Brussels and not Bristol, he was bigging us up today, saying we'd done much better than Europe, and that maybe the European governments are not doing as well as they should be. But he seemed to me to be passing the blame onto the individual governments, but it wasn't up to them, was it?
No, it wasn't. But I would say this. This is so exciting and such great news that for once in my whole lifetime, I have heard the EU or the senior figures from the EU self-reflect. This does not happen. The EU blames everyone else for its problems. It blamed everything on to do with Brexit, on lies, this, that, and the other. Never looked at itself to see how it expanded too quickly, or had too many parliamentary sucking laws, and it never self-reflects, which is one of the reasons why it's on a self-destruct path. But today, when Barnier came out suddenly saying, actually, you know what, maybe the EU would be better if we took more risks like the UK and the US. Because after all, nothing is achieved from a comfort zone, and there's nothing the EU likes more than staying in its safe little protected comfort zone bubble. And it's sort of seeing the UK being nimble and quick and taking risks. And Boris did take a risk with betting on the vaccines, and the EU didn't. It was far too cautious, and then it trashed the vaccine anyway. I mean, they were the biggest anti-vaxxers, globally, and no one really points that out. And did huge damage to the vaccine rollouts themselves because they're so nervous about their project. And one important thing that Barnier said was the ideology stopped it from having a successful vaccine rollout. That was very important. Project before people. We saw that with the migrant crisis, with the Eurozone crisis. And I think it could help it reform. And it could be a good thing for our European friends that finally they're looking towards themselves at the bad.
No, it's a cunning trick, Belinda. It's a cunning trick to take, because they're not nimble enough. It's his way of saying we need to just take full control so we can just make the quick decisions for all the countries.
He may be thinking that, but I don't think the nation states will be thinking that. I don't think they will easily go along with the treaty being so badly interpreted and the EU making up laws as they go along to try and force integration through the back door. I don't think nation states will be having it as much as they used to. And look at Ireland at the moment. The EU is trying to force Ireland to raise its taxes because some of the other member states are jealous of all the economic success the low taxes in Ireland are giving them, and saying you can't have a slice of the COVID recovery fund unless you raise your taxes and suffer like the rest of us. They always into leveling down, and they have to learn that this is a huge mistake. They need to sell their...
We need, that's a really good point, Belinda, and I think we need to make more of that, because they actually haven't made much in the news in this country about how the founding fathers of the European Empire, I like to call them now, are leaning on Ireland. And if we could,
they make the most of Ireland. They used Ireland. They played Ireland for fools. And there is some sympathy that I'm holding back for Ireland, because they did, jump on the wagon to kind of bash Brexit Britain a bit, but actually they are still our neighbours, and they were used, and now they're of no use to the EU anymore. So they're going to penalise
And they voted to
them.
leave, didn't they? But they got it turned around on them, their referendum.
Of course they did. Brexit was the only referendum that has been seen through. Every other Eurosceptic result in the entire EU has been overturned or rerun or ignored. That's why Brexit was so revolutionary, because we actually managed to get away with it.
Sorry, Belinda, can I just go back? Did you say something about the parliamentary sucking laws earlier, or did I mishear that?
Yeah. Maybe I didn't phrase that so well. What I meant is that I feel like, there's these wonderful sources of power for the people, and what the EU likes to do is suck that power from the Parliament through the
Yeah, she
ECJ.
didn't actually mean laws on sucking, James.
Well, I mean, maybe there are.
I wouldn't surprise me if the EU become, they're so, micromanaging, that they will be bringing laws on sucking.
Well, because so many drinks now have a straw in them, don't
well, they
they?
brought in the
There may well have to
paper
be-
straw law, didn't they? So they do get involved.
Be legislation on what you do and how you insert the straw and how you suck through it.
And they don't work anyway.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you made a very good point, actually, Ash, that the
Did I?
EU tends to, yeah, you did. It tends to take every crisis as an opportunity to force further integration. They almost rub their hands and great, let's tell the countries they can't cope on their own and they need to give more powers to us. They're going to get rid of the vetoes. Remember, Remain is saying, but all the countries have a veto. They're on their way out. And if they're not, they put pressure on, like they're doing with Ireland, to try and force countries to change their taxes. And it's a destructive path. Brexit was never going to kill off the EU. The EU do that themselves. Their leaders make terrible decisions. And I actually feel sorry for our European friends. They deserve better.
Well, the Dutch apparently wanted to go on their own with the vaccine. And they could apparently go on their own. Any of the EU countries could. But because they're in the EU, they all agreed to do it in that one pact together.
But they are probably responsible in that case for the deaths of people that didn't need to die.
Well, not probably.
Because
definitely. I mean,
yeah,
they would have.
And they should be ashamed of themselves.
But in the same way, unfortunately, for a lot of the EU fanatics, people and their lives and the economy are collateral. If it means the project gets protected, the ideology can be quite frightening, almost like a cult with some of them. And if that's why they were so angry when we left, because it was like people suddenly seeing the light and moving away from their plan and the destination that their train was on, which is full supranational governance and almost like an EU government, and parliaments are just like Kent County councils. That's what they wanted.
I'm not going to get into that. Why? Well, I might, but not now. Why? Have you got an itchy nose? I have all day.
I did. My hair is so static; it keeps tickling my nose. So I have to keep touching my face, which is very un-COVID, whatever, touching my face, but I have to.
Well, I won't worry about that. COVID's a thing of the past in this country. But, do you need to mention hair when some people have a hair problem, like my friend over there? Of course, I don't, obviously.
Are you follically challenged? Are you offended by being called bald, James?
Oh, me? No, I've got more hair than you, probably. I just choose to have it all cut off.
Yeah, he's not naturally bald. He has it shaved.
No, I'm not. I mean,
he's got a very thick head of hair all over.
If you ever stroke my head, you will feel the little needles growing out of it.
The whole.
That's quite nice, waffling the back of a man's head.
You just
doing
find
what
ridiculous.
to it? Waffling
it.
Waffling. My mum does it to my dad as well. Yeah, just sort of, waffling the back of
It's
a
nice
man's
when it's been freshly shaved and you can go against the grain of the hair.
Yes.
So
that's a good point.
How do you know that, Ash?
Well, I've had shaved hair.
Oh, right, okay. Let's get back to some serious discussion about the downfall of the European Union. There's still quite a few people in this, what we refer to now as the metropolitan elite of the sort of Guardian readers and a few other newspapers that seem to still hang on to the dregs of the possibility of us going back to the European Union. Quite a lot of people in the media as well, that sort of manky, boring bit of the media, I don't know, ITV,
like all the media
Sky,
apart from
the
us,
BBC.
really. Like all of them.
Well, yeah, I think you're right, Ash. You are right. I mean, but they still hanker after being parts of, and they don't even seem to hide the fact either.
No, they don't care.
I think they're terrified. They're terrified of ordinary people on the street having a democratic right to change laws in this country, the sort of academic lot, if you like, the chattering classes, the same ones who thought that all Brexit voters, were thickos, and the same ones that think all Boris supporters are thickos, that kind of, it is a BBC thing as well. They don't trust the people anymore. And that's very dangerous, because as soon as you don't trust the people with their vote, you take all precautions possible to keep them away from having democratic agency, which is why they like the EU so much. It's almost like they felt that they were saving them from a hopeless country full of people that were not aligned with their views. And I think the BBC are scared of the British people now, and they try and re-educate us at every opportunity they can.
I know, it's patronising, absolutely patronising, the way they go on and on about, and their newscasters and their presenters and that, what's her name, Emily?
Maitlis.
Yeah, her. I mean, she did the most biased interview I've ever seen with our friend Andrew Bridgen.
Well, she did that one about a couple of years ago with Boris, didn't she, where she was just really... anti-Boris. I mean, there was no balance.
I mean, I don't understand how that goes, because every time I appear to be biased, and of course I'm not. I mean, I'm probably the most.
Well, especially on the BBC, on the news programmes.
Yeah, I know.
Biased.
It's a.
They get away with it. They get away with it constantly.
But Boris did say he'd get away with. Sorry, Belinda, please.
I was just going to say, it's
she's
actually
leaning
really
into
sad.
me.
I love the BBC. I think many people cherished and treasured good old auntie, and when BBC World News is on, when you're abroad, you feel like that's a sanctuary of reason. And the people who run it now have done it such a disservice and brought its reputation into disrepute, and they should be held account for that. They're the ones that have made the BBC now a bit of a laughing stock, because they've allowed their presenters to be political activists. That was never the case with Moira Stewart and Trevor McDonald in the past.
Absolutely right. No.
It's like they've taken over, haven't they? The management, the stars, or they call them stars, or the presenters have taken over the editorial.
Yeah, I think they had a breakdown. They had a complete breakdown after Brexit. They're still having a breakdown over Boris. They cannot understand why we feel like we need to be an independent nation. I think they've become risk averse, like Michel Barnier is. Actually, and the EU is. They're terrified of risk, whereas most of us are the British SAS, who dares wins, exploring, inventing.
Look, I have a bad enough reputation, Belinda, as it is. Well, we could become the Gang of Three. Do you remember the gang of, who were they?
When was that?
Well, they were Liberal Democrats, weren't they? But, we wouldn't be quite that sort of...
what was that?
Whatever happened, by the way, to the Liberal Democrats? Do they still exist?
I think so. I heard of them. I saw them on Twitter the other day saying that there were 6 biological sexes. One of the ex-PPCs for the Liberal Democrats tweeted to me that there are 6 biological sexes. And I'm like, there's a reason. You've just lost complete touch with reality and what matters to people. And again, identity politics completely destroys reason and trust. And you go woke, you go broke. And I think the Lib Dems have suffered from that.
Hang on. I mean, I can understand too, men and women, and then there are some people who are born or blessed with both, and then there are some other people. But I can't 6. I don't understand 6.
No, there's no scientific backing for it at all. I think it's just part of this gender revolution that's trying to erase male and female and the significance of sex, which of course completely destroys, female sex-based rights and protections. And you hear all these feminists champion this gender ideology, and it's like they're working towards the destruction of their own rights. I can't even get my head around it. And I think the Lib Dems and Labour, many MPs in the Labour Party, don't believe that in the significance of sex anymore. Loos are disappearing, male and female loos are disappearing in schools and university. It's now all unisex. I mean, you can all say
hang on, right, stop, no, stop right there. I do not, I don't know if I'm just I am very old, but I don't know why, you can't, well, in France they have sort of unisex loos. They always have, really. But I would prefer. I would prefer to be able to use the ladies' toilets because they're also always so much cleaner than the men's. Yeah. But if you allow men to go and use the ladies, then I'm not. It's not on.
There's always a queue at the ladies as well, isn't there?
Yeah. But imagine then there'll be a queue at the men if it was all not bisexual, all sort of non-sexual or whatever.
The neutral, I think it's called.
Neutral,
Gender
that's
neutral.
the
A
word.
non-sexual
Gender
toilet.
neutral. Yeah. Yeah,
Well, I
and
know
I don't know if...
there's a school in Wales where the girl pupils are staying at home when they have their periods because they hate the fact they have no privacy anymore in loos, and it only pleases a tiny section of society, the sort of gender extremists. This hasn't been pushed for by the trans community. These are specifically the gender extremists that are trying to erase sex.
And why are people like schools giving in to them?
Because they have charities like Stonewall involved, and they've really turned against the significance of sex. They want to wipe it out. They want to erase female language. It even got to the Conservative government who took, female language out of the maternity bill. So as much as, people think this is just a storm in a teacup, actual things are changing for the next generation, where girls no longer have changing rooms, loos, all our sort of vulnerable, naked, safe spaces we're forced to allow males into without our consent. Like, we're not even really.
When are you getting back into politics, or are you still going on with I'm not now, I'm retired?
She's
or
retired
are you just
now.
gonna?
Yes.
I'm too politically incorrect for politics. I'd be on my bike within an hour. They wouldn't let me stand for anything. I'm free this side of politics to say exactly what I think, and even if it's controversial, they can't sack me.
No, that's a very good point.
You could be an independent like that news
Well,
guy.
we'll make sure that we allow your thoughts out very regularly, Belinda. Yeah. Thank you for that. Have you actually braided a bit of your hair there?
No, I haven't. No.
Is that?
No, look there. Oh no, she's got a dreadlock like you.
Oh no, these are my teenage girls.
Yeah, they do that, don't they?
We went to church. They decided I got most of them out, but I think that's.
They don't come out, do they? They stay in forever.
No,
I don't know what you two are talking about. I've no idea what it was.
Teenage girls like putting plaits in your hair. You wouldn't know about that, but that's what I don't know why. It's sort of a thing. They got a phase.
All right.
They go
Well, listen. You two can talk about that at another time. But for the moment, Belinda, thank you very much indeed, and we'll talk soon. Plaits in your hair.
Yeah, I had one.
You really? Plaits in your hair?
I had one plait. Yeah.